Hey, my name is Kara. I'm an ultrasound tech, and let's talk today about what a biophysical profile is and what it basically entails when your doctor is ordering that for you in your third trimester. Also, if you haven't already, definitely check out the link in my bio for my new group that I made for expectant as well as current moms. We have a great supportive community over there, and I would love to see you over there. And if you also have any questions, that is the group and I guess the best way to get a hold of me. So definitely go ahead and check that out. Anyways, back to the biophysical profile. So a BPP is what we call it for short. And what it essentially is you can think of it as almost like a well-being test of baby. And it is an ultrasound of the well-being of baby at that time. We are evaluating 4 things in that scan. And for each of the 4 criteria, we are going to be scoring it either a 0 if baby does not meet the criteria, or a 2 if baby does meet the criteria. Altogether, it is going to be scored out of 8, so you can either get a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8 out of 8. You are aiming for 8 out of 8 for baby. That means that baby has met all of the 4 criteria that we are looking for. And if you score anything less than that, then usually your doctor is going to send you for a non-stress test or just further testing in general, just to ensure that baby is still actually doing okay and it isn't because something else is a huge issue and that's why it didn't pass the biophysical profile. This test is also done in the third trimester, so as long as you are over 28 weeks and 0 days, then you are eligible to get a BPP test done. Where I work in Canada, every third trimester scan that we do is going to also include a BPP scan, but that's not always the case at every clinic. You may get just a third trimester scan to check for growth, or you may get one that is just the biophysical profile. You may also, again, at the clinic where I work at, get a 2-in-1, as in we are doing both at the same time in the third trimester, but this is all clinic dependent. So anyways, let's talk more though about the biophysical profile. The 4 criteria that we are looking at is going to be making sure that you have enough fluid, first of all, that baby is moving appropriately, and that is 2 categories of it, as well as making sure that baby is actually practicing the breathing that it needs to be practicing in a certain amount of time. The fluid that I'm talking about is your amniotic fluid. So we want to make sure that you at least have a 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter pocket of fluid, and that is going to be without any sort of cord in it, any sort of limb in it, and that is going to indicate to us that your fluids are appropriate for where you are, unless, of course, your pocket of fluid is more than 8 centimeters deep. Then we are going to be measuring your fluid a little bit more closely and seeing if you have something called polyhydramnios, which means that you have too much fluid. So as long as you are in the middle area of having greater than a 2 by 2 pocket of fluid, but also less than an 8 centimeter deep fluid pocket, you are going to be in the normal fluid category, and you are going to score a 2 for that criteria. The second thing that we are going to be looking for is at least 1 episode of flexion and extension from baby in a 30-minute time frame. So what that means is baby doing a movement like this. So like flexion and then extension. And that has to be something that we see at least once from one of baby's limbs or even just from baby's neck in a 30-minute time span. The third thing is going to be at least 3 or more gross body movements in the 30-minute time frame from baby. So instead of doing something like this and this, baby could be wiggling its fingers, it could be moving its head back and forth. Basically, just any 3 big body movements that we see, we are able to count that towards the score for that third criteria. And the last thing that we are going to be looking for is ensuring that baby is practicing breathing for 30 consecutive seconds in a 30-minute time frame. Hiccups also count, but what we are trying to see is making sure that baby's lung development is progressing properly. And in order to evaluate this, one of the signs would be to see that practice breathing. Of course, baby doesn't actually need to breathe in there all the time because it's surrounded by fluid, right? Like, obviously, there's no air in there for baby to breathe. But for us, we want to be able to see that 30 seconds of practice breathing because that does say that baby is trying to get all of those practice breaths in. And therefore, that lung development is hopefully going to be appropriate because it is practicing that breathing. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, if baby passes all of these criteria and we are able to see these in the time frame that we are looking for, then your baby is going to score an 8 out of 8 for your BPP. Anything less than that is a potential concern, and that is why your doctor is going to be sending you for further testing if you do get less than an 8 out of 8. And it probably goes without saying, but the closest you are to a 0 out of 8, then the more concerning that is going to be. The most often failed criteria for baby is going to be that practice breathing, so that 30 consecutive seconds in that 30-minute time frame. And this is simply because a lot of the time, especially in the early third trimester, baby doesn't really practice breathing a whole heck of a lot, especially when we are just scanning baby for that 30 to 45 minutes. It could have just been that baby had practiced breathing right before you came into the scan, and then it starts to practice breathe right after you get the scan done. So, the breathing thing is definitely one of the criteria where you are going to see that 0 out of 2 score most commonly. So, when that is the only area that you are getting a 0 out of 2, that isn't as concerning as, let's say, you get a 0 out of 2 for like no flexion or extension, or your fluid being abnormal. So essentially, I'm trying to tell you that even if you don't get an 8 out of 8, try not to panic. They are going to send you for more testing for the most part, anyways, a non stress test or just further testing in general. Your doctor may check you and just make sure everything is going okay. But in the end, a BPP is going to be a good indication of what is happening with baby at that moment in time in terms of well being. And hopefully, you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions on the BPP scan or just anything in pregnancy in general, definitely leave them in the comments below. Or if you want a quicker response, definitely check out my group that I talked about at the beginning of the video.